Hi, everybody. This is Annalisa with Journey to the Goddess, where I regenerate ancient feminine wisdom for modern women. Today, I'm here with Dr. Cindy Caldwell for the second of a four-part series on Mary Magdalene Regeneratrix for modern women. So, Dr. Cindy, hi, Dr. Cindy.
Hello. Good to see you.
You too. Dr. Cindy is a certified diversity professional, a mythologist, and a scholar. And she wrote her dissertation on the changing myth of Mary Magdalene. So I'm so fortunate to have her with me to talk about Mary Magdalene today. Who is Mary Magdalene, and who is the Mary Magdalene that's come to us today?
Well, we don't really know who Mary Magdalene is historically. We have some stories about her in the Bible. She's mentioned 13 times in the New Testament of the Bible. We know that she followed Jesus. We know that he included her in his gatherings. But other than that, we don't really know much about her, except that she was at the most important parts of his life. She was at the base of the cross when he was crucified. She was there to take care of his body once he had died. And then she was there when he was resurrected. So she was a key component, as far as the writers of the Gospels tell us. She was a key component because she was there at those very important times. Who she's becoming for me today is in large because of what we've learned from the Gnostic Gospels. And they were written around the same times that the other books in the Bible were written, but they were hidden because they were considered heretical. The Gospel of Mary, which is about Mary Magdalene, wasn't printed until the 1950s. But that tells a very different story of who Magdalene was. The Gnostic Gospels actually tell us how she preached with Jesus, how she had miracles in her own right. There's all kinds of myth about her and the things that she did, but she's a very important figure in the Gnostic Gospels. There's all kinds of theories about why we lost that information, but she's becoming an archetype for women now. She's becoming the woman who persisted, the woman who just kept coming back, the woman who's showing us a new way to be as women. She's certainly an example of the divine feminine archetype. So she's becoming much more than she was ever allowed to be in her text or in the Bible, certainly.
Right. So she is regenerating, and she's helping us regenerate her, and she's helping us regenerate ourselves.
Yes, all of that, absolutely.
Yeah.
I really do see her as a huge proponent of women becoming empowered and learning who they are and what they can be, that just because someone said something horrible about you, that's not who you are. And she's showing that that can just happen continuously so that we can all learn from that.
Can you tell us why Mary Magdalene is important to you?
I found a way in my research and in the analysis of that research to make Magdalene so important as the divine feminine. And we're so used to seeing masculine and feminine as separate genders, as separate bodies, rather than acknowledging that masculine and feminine is within all of us, that we all embody the masculine and feminine qualities. And that's true of the divine masculine and divine feminine as well. So I started to look at the stories in the Bible and the idea of Magdalene being at those very, very important places in Jesus' life, that she's actually representing the feminine aspect that actually enabled the masculine aspect to become more, so that together they created this potential that is much bigger than either Jesus or Magdalene or the masculine and feminine separately, that it actually takes both of them coming together to make resurrection happen, for new birth to happen.
And the resurrection can take on multiple meanings. I know some people interpret it as a literal kind of bodily resurrection that gets assumed to heaven. There can be, right? Or we can look in more psychological or spiritual terms.
Right.
Like you can be living now and die to a part of yourself and resurrect yourself, maybe through the union of these opposites.
Yes, I think exactly that's how it connects with us individually. I think these stories, these myths that are passed down are to show us how we get to work as well. And I get to be inspired by how that masculine and feminine, when it comes together, that it does regenerate. It is a rebirth. It is a resurrection. Anytime I take on something new, there's a whole new me that's being created at the same time.
Can you speak more to how Mary Magdalene is regenerating in the culture today, and what is the significance of her regeneration?
Where I have talked about the masculine and the feminine being represented by Jesus and Mary Magdalene, I see that coming forward today. I see Magdalene as a strong archetype of empowerment, of moving forward, of becoming new. And I see that blending of masculine and feminine qualities creating this sort of perichoresis, which is the divine dance, which is moving forward, always having this energy. And I think from that, we have movements like Black Lives Matter or the Me Too campaign or March for Our Lives. All of those are new ways of dealing with old problems. And we're looking at it from a different lens, which I think is that dance of the masculine and the feminine and the next thing, the Holy Spirit that moves things forward. So for me, that's what the Trinity is. It's that movement that's always happening.
Right. Why might this renewed version of Magdalene, why might this be important for women today, for the modern woman?
One of the things that's new about what Magdalene is bringing to women is that we get to define ourselves. We get to define our jobs. We get to define who we are and how we identify. And, we learned that Magdalene's text was being copied and used through the 5th century. And it wasn't until the 6th century that Pope Gregory preached a sermon connecting her to the woman that was considered a sinner, that was washing Jesus' feet with her tears and drying them with her hair, that woman was labeled a sinner, which everybody has to assume that means sex of some deviancy of some sort. It can't be just that she had her hair down. That was a definition of sinner in those days. And they connected Magdalene to that story, and so she became a prostitute. And it's always interesting to me when prostitute is used to label a woman and make less of a woman, because it's the men who pay for that service. But they're not the bad ones. It's their power that they're wanting to demean women and keep them under their thumb, that they made prostitution be a bad thing. Because in the original goddess religions, prostitution was a sacred act. It was the way that we showed creation and how life-giving that is and how we can't do without it. That blood was part of the creative process, that was sacred. It was life force. Now, later, blood becomes bad. Magdalene is showing us now, she's redefining. We know that she was never a prostitute. She was never being used by men in that way. She is her own person. She had her own text. She was a preacher. She was a healer. She was all these things. Well, if Magdalene can be remade, we can all be remade. So that is so empowering for me. And so as we prayed earlier, that the Magdalene is here. The Magdalene is someone I can be inspired by and be empowered by, and know that I can do new things.
If Mary Magdalene were living today, what do you think she would have to tell us? What would be her message for the world?
Wow. That would be, that question they say, if you could have lunch with anybody, living or dead, who would it be? It's always Magdalene for me. I think she would continue her work. I think she would continue being all that she is and encouraging women and men to be all that they are. And I think she would be busting stereotypes and creating great healing in the world. And she would have her own ideas of what that's going to look like, because she was well on her way to doing that before they hid all of her books. So yeah, I think she would be a stellar person to have lunch with, to have as a leader. I think she would be out there really rooting for all of us to come into our own potential.
Beautiful. Oh, I love that. Thank you so much, Dr. Cindy.
Thank you, Anna. It's always a pleasure to talk about Magdalene with you.
It is. I agree. I'm sure there will be many more in the future as well. I want to give you an opportunity to tell everybody how they can find out more about your work or possibly even read your dissertation.
Sure. My website is deimanagement.net, and there are several tabs that you can click on once you open the website up, and one of them is Magdalene. And so if you click on that tab, you can get to my dissertation. There's a button on the page that you can then read the dissertation if you so choose. And you can also hit the other tabs and learn more about my work and who I work with and what all I'm doing in the world. And you can reach me through the website as well. Would love to have some feedback. That'd be great.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us on this episode of Journey to the Goddess. I look forward to having more combos, sharing more combos on the Magdalene with you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for viewing, everybody. If you liked what you saw, then I encourage you to like this video, to comment, to subscribe to the channel, and of course to share the videos, because sharing is caring, right? And don't forget to watch every other video in this series. And if you're looking for other ways that you can support the channel, then I encourage you to head on over to my Patreon page, where you can learn more about membership and all the benefits that come included with membership. So thank you so much. I appreciate all of your support from the bottom of my heart. Until next time, ciao.